Hey, how are we? Today we're talking about fishing. You know, fishing is one of those things where when I was younger, I didn't really appreciate it. My grandfather always wanted to take me. It's actually where I got this hat. This hat was my grandfather's. So I feel it's only right that while I'm fishing, I would rock his hat. Fishing is one of those things where when I was younger, I didn't really appreciate just the whole process of it. Just kind of coming out here, how relaxing it is. There's really no pressure. You're able to kind of just clear your mind and really not focus on anything but just fishing. And really why I'm out here today, and the message I kind of want to talk about is probably one of the more famous stories in the New Testament. It's when Jesus calls a couple of his disciples who were fishermen. And it's a story I've talked about before. It's a story that I'm sure a majority of you have heard. But there's a few fishermen. There's Peter and his brother Andrew, and they spent all night fishing. And they weren't fishing like I'm fishing right now. Like, if I catch a fish, it's awesome. If not, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna have food on my table. I have food in my fridge. It's not the end of the world. This is more so just something that I get to do for fun. But for Peter and Andrew, it was different. They were fishermen by trade. That means their livelihood came from their catch. That means that their ability to feed their families, to keep pressing in day by day, it relied on the catch that they had. And in Luke chapter 5, we see this story of where Peter and his brother Andrew spend all night fishing. Think about that, all night fishing. There must have been a level of stress that they had, knowing that they needed to catch something to keep them in the water, to keep them in their boat all night long. But they were unsuccessful, kind of like I am right now. Cast after cast, they didn't catch anything. And when they came back to shore in the morning, there's this guy named Jesus, who that's the guy you want to end up on shore with. So there's this guy Jesus, and he's teaching a crowd, but they're kind of smothering him. And so as Peter and his brother Andrew and a couple of other guys, a couple of their fishing buddies who also become disciples, as they kind of come closer to shore, Jesus asks Peter and Andrew if he can hop on their boat and have them push off into the water a little bit, so that the natural echo of the sound off the water would help the crowds hear him. And so, they do it, but just think about that. They spent all night long fishing, trying to, make ends meet, trying to do what their job is, trying to provide for their families, and they were unsuccessful. And they get back to the shore, and there's this guy they've never met before who's asking them, hey, can you just push out from the shore a little bit so I can stand on your boat and I can teach these people? And so after Jesus finishes teaching these people, he then looks to Peter and says, Peter, push out a little bit farther and throw your net in the water. And Peter's reluctant. He's thinking, you know what, I'm a professional fisherman and I just got ghosted by all these fish. I didn't catch a single one. And now here's this guy I don't really know who's saying, hey, just push out into the water again and throw your nets in the water. And Peter does it. Peter humors Jesus, and he does it. He puts the nets back in the water, and a miracle happens. They catch so much fish in these nets that they need to call over their buddies. They need to call them over and bring a second boat in to help haul in all of these fish. So just think about it. They spent all night and they didn't catch a single thing. And then Jesus tells them to try again, and they catch so much fish that they need to call in 2 boats. And it was at that moment that Peter realized that he was in the presence of God. And he gets down on his knees and he says, get away from me, Jesus. I'm a sinful man. Like, I shouldn't even be in your presence. And Jesus says something amazing to him. He says, you're a fisherman, but I'm going to make you a fisher of men. And that's a story that I've always just found so fascinating. Because Jesus takes what Peter knows, being a fisherman, and he completely flips it on its head, saying that you're going to fish for people now. And And really what Jesus is saying is that I'm going to take the skill sets that you have from being a fisherman, and I'm going to apply that to you going after lost people. The patience that you have as a fisherman, the endurance you have as a fisherman, the strategy that you have as a fisherman to catch fish, you're now going to apply that to catching people. And I think that that is a call that Jesus is putting on all of our lives. Because when Jesus says, I'm going to make you a fisherman, he says, follow me. And Peter and his brother Andrew and their buddies, they drop everything. They drop their livelihood. They completely, basically just quit their jobs, and they say, I'm going to follow Jesus. And they become Jesus's disciples, and they get to experience everything that happens in Jesus's ministry, and they become some of Jesus's best friends. And they become the leaders of the early church. They get to experience so many amazing things, but it all comes back to this moment on the shore. And I've been to the Sea of Galilee. I've been on a boat that would have been similar to the boats that they were on. And to be able to experience that, it is special, because Jesus is saying, listen, this is what you think your livelihood is, this is what you think you were created for, but I have something bigger and greater for you. And so Jesus is saying the same thing to me and you today. Whether or not you've gone fishing before, whether or not you even know how to hold a pole or put the hook on or really cast the line, regardless of all of that, what Jesus is saying, listen, when you follow me, I'm going to make you a fisher of people. I'm going to have you fish for people, which means we're going to go out into the world and we're going to cast out that line. We're going to speak the gospel to people. We're going to preach the gospel to people, hoping that they'll bite onto that hook, that we'll be able to reel them in and bring them into the family of God. And so I want to encourage you, don't wait. You see, the reason why I'm wearing my grandfather's hat, the reason why I've got his fishing pole is because like I said at the beginning, I took it for granted. My grandfather always wanted to go fishing with me. I was too busy doing other things, and I didn't go fishing with him as much as I wish I had now. And I don't want you to get, further along in your life and look at the people around you and be like, man, I wish that I would have gone fishing for them. I know that there's people in my life who are hurting and broken and lost, and I wish I would have picked up the fishing pole and threw that line out to them and share the gospel with them and share Jesus with them and share hope with them. I don't want you to have that regret. I want us to be able to live in this place of where we see the opportunity that's in front of us. And like Peter and his brother Andrew, they dropped everything and they said, Jesus, we're going to follow you, because fishing for a livelihood is cool and it's good, but fishing for people, that's what's most important. So Rev Youth and anybody watching this, I want to encourage you with this today. Take the opportunity in front of you, look at the ocean of people around us, and let's go fishing. Was that me hitting you?
That was me, yeah. You thought you got something?
Well, yeah, dude, because the way that...